me in a minute, but this is kind of related. There's two basic types of wheelchairs. There are manual wheelchairs and electric wheelchairs. And wheelchairs are kind of like what I'm into, you know? So when I was a kid, I had a manual wheelchair. And then in about 10th grade, I got my first power wheelchair. And when I first got my power wheelchair, I drove it like this. I was like really slow, like this. And then when I wanted to like take a turn, I would stop. And then I would like turn like a 90-degree angle. And it was really, really awkward. Like everywhere that I went, people were like embarrassed, and it took me forever to go places, you know? And it was not a very effective way to get around. You know, and I started really thinking, it is really a good idea. I really like my manual chair better, so I could go faster, you know, that kind of thing. But then something really strange happened. After a few months of using my power chair, it became more natural, and my movements became more fluid. And the reason why is because I quit thinking about what I was doing and started thinking about where I was going. When we're building brands and social media, it is vital that we focus on where we are going and not what we are doing. Because what we are doing is trivial, okay? It does not matter how many followers we get on Twitter. It does not matter how many times you tweet. It does not matter how many fans you have on Facebook or what your EdgeRank score is or your cloud score. It does not matter. You need to have direction. So today I'm going to talk mostly about direction and where we can go when building brands. Okay, so where you're going, what exactly does that mean? It means articulating your brand identity. Do not touch social if you don't have a mission statement, okay? Don't touch social if you don't know what your core value is or your business goals. You need to have a firm grasp of that before you can start building social campaigns. Social is not, and building brands in social is not about content distribution, okay? Great, you've got a Twitter account. You put your logo in it, and now you're automating posts to the Twitter account. That's not building a brand. That's just pushing content. To build a brand in social, you need to engage people. People use social media to be social. They don't use it to digest your PR statement, okay? So this is not branding in social media. This is like the old school approach to new school media, I guess. And really what it comes down to is developing the right narrative, all right? I'm going to talk about two cases here, one recent and one not so recent. The first one is Raghu. Last week, Raghu put out a video on YouTube about a couple of mothers talking about how their husbands are horrible cooks, okay? And they basically pushed it to a bunch of dad bloggers. These are bloggers that are, you know, really proud to be fathers, and they write about that all the time. And Raghu thought they could get traction by promoting this video that basically says, dads don't know how to cook, okay? It didn't work, all right? The bloggers hated it. It created a huge problem for Raghu. They spent more of their time fixing the issue than actually developing a positive campaign. Now, if you do a brand search on Google for Raghu, on the first page, there is a blog post that says, Raghu hates dads. Okay, so this is not how you engage people. Okay, the second example is the one that's a positive one. It's the Old Spice example, and it's got a lot of attention. But basically, Old Spice they had these commercials running on TV for a while, and then they're like, would it be cool if we could like make these commercials more interactive? So they started monitoring their Twitter stream, and instead of responding to people on Twitter, they actually started making YouTube videos of this guy talking directly to the Twitter users, like the individual Twitter users. And they did it for like 2 days, and it was like one after the other after the other. The guy sat in a sound studio with Twitter open, and this guy in front of a camera and doing like crazy stuff. and it was awesome, okay? Now here's the difference between the two. Old Spice is totally ambiguous. It has no clear, concise direction, and there's no narrative or storytelling going on. But there doesn't need to be, because it's engaging your user base in a way that they feel invested in the brand. They help produce these videos, okay? They were not taught to by Raghu. Raghu took a cultural narrative that expired 10, 15 years ago and pushed it on bloggers. That doesn't work for social media. You have to engage them, you have to get them invested in your brand, help them become part of your message. This is a book by Seth Godin, he just pointed out, called We Are All Weird. You want to learn more about understanding how to develop content for non-mass media or non-mass markets, definitely read this book. I definitely recommend it, it's really good. Okay, so you also need to develop a very unique voice. The folks on the page up here, these are fictional characters, and it's from a comic book called Questionable Content. And the creator of this comic book, he made a Twitter account for every one of the characters in his comic book. And like every day, these characters like talk to each other in their own like unique like character ways, you know? And the comic basically lives not only on the pages of the artwork, but also on Twitter. So you've got users now following these basically fake accounts to get engaged in the storyline before the next issue comes out. So it's a way to kind of like build a story and build a dialogue by having a unique and articulate voice that people recognize. Okay, understanding authenticity. I'm sure we've all heard this. It's important to be 100% transparent and authentic in social media, right? We've all heard that? Well, whoever says that is a liar, okay? Because there's a big, big difference between real authenticity and what I like to call manufactured authenticity. This is real authenticity, okay? If you're in business, this is your goal, okay? But guess what? You can't say that. You cannot go out there and tell people, but hey, guess what, guys? I'm just here to make some money, right? It does not work. You can't say that. So what you need to do is work to build manufactured authenticity. And this seems like, obviously it seems like common sense, you're not going to say that. But if you don't understand the difference between manufactured authenticity and real authenticity, and you don't have that mindset, you'll get yourself in a lot of trouble, okay? Because you'll get used to saying stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, did I just say that on the branded account? You know? So you need to know that there's a line between real and bad authenticity. A tip that I have for creating manufactured authenticity is, oh yeah, this is basically what I just said. You want to give the impression that you're being authentic, okay? One of the tips that I have for creating manufactured authenticity is to admit trivial character faults, okay? So a good example of admitting trivial character faults would be this slide, all right? I told you I sucked at PowerPoint, but guess what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt my bottom line. If I'm able to convey good content to you guys, then it shouldn't matter with this presentation. But I admitted I'm stuck at PowerPoint because I wanted to like get in with you guys. You know, I wanted to, yeah, I suck at some things, you know? It builds authenticity. But in the end, it doesn't matter if I admit trivial faults. It builds on things. So now we're going to talk about what you're doing. We just talked about where you're going. And you do need to think about what you're doing so that you don't, you know, make some kind of crazy mistakes. First off, very first thing you need to do is protect your brand. Does everybody know about Qwikster? A few weeks ago, Netflix announces that they're going to split their company up and they're calling their new company Qwikster. Guess what? They did not register the Twitter name first. Somebody else already had it, okay? This somebody else, apparently, is like a 15-year-old pothead. And who apparently he's not like telling people, yeah, I'll sell this account for like 500 grand, you know? Let me go smoke another bowl. Like that's, like even telling people that. And guess what? So they put up their PR statement without getting this account. We all go visit the page because we want to see if they're on Twitter yet. We find this, and now these tweets like this are being retweeted hundreds and hundreds of times, okay? You've got to protect your brand by hitting on the sites before you launch things, okay? Later, I think today, Michael Stricker is going to be talking. He's the CEO of Noam. Great company to go in and grab all of your usernames all at once. They do it all for you. It's an awesome service. Also, use Noam, but also use a lawyer. I mean, it's just common sense. Lawyers are expensive, but they will save you a lot of time and money later. So they are definitely what you want to use for. Also, you need to think about aligning where you're going with what you're doing. This is important. People like to think about strategy at first, and then they start doing stuff, and they get sidetracked, and they forget about the strategy, you know? An example of this is I saw this tweet from Expedia the other day, and you can see that like Expedia is really helping out Rob here, right? Like they're really going to help him with his itinerary. I think he has problems with traveling. The problem is I actually went to Expedia's account after I saw this tweet, and that's all they do. All they do is help people with their itineraries. So all of a sudden, guess what? I no longer think Expedia is awesome. I think, oh my God, they're screwing up everybody's travel plans. They completely lost their message. They completely lost their goal and their direction, okay? So instead of doing something like this, have a separate account. This is Bank of America's help account. Okay, they have a separate account completely devoted towards customer service, okay? Is there anybody here from Bank of America? The pro tip when visiting Charlotte, suck up to Bank of America. But anyway, so they've got this separate account just for customer service, and it's ideal. They monitor their social media streams for their brand names, and when they see an issue arise, they respond to it with this account, and this account only. They actually have 5 other accounts, or 4 other accounts. And the idea is that they're looking at the direction for their brand, and they're segmenting their social presence among that direction. They don't need to cross streams with all of this other stuff that's going on, okay? You also need to be very familiar that there's a difference between dialogue and distribution. You have dialogue and communication on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, other niche social networks. There's a thing called Ravelry for knitters. There's crazy stuff out there for niche networks. Those are for dialogue, distribution. You want to do YouTube, StumbleUpon, Tumblr. These are things that you can push your content